What's happening, folks? What's happening, folks? Welcome to the next edition of the Bison Break. I'm your host, Rob Black Jr., and today we have an exciting episode. Today, we get to speak to another member of the 2024 Hall of Fame. Please welcome Lauren Pruitt to the Bison Break Podcast. Hey, Lauren, how you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so exciting to have you here. I did have a chance to meet you at the Hall of Fame banquet, and we were able to see, celebrate that prestigious moment. But actually learning more about your story and the things that you've done at Howard University, I thought you would be a great person to have on the podcast. So I'm thankful that you was willing to share your story, but actually jump on the podcast and, just talk about the things you've done. But just to level set, let's just talk about, let's go to the beginning. Where did you grow up, and, how did that affect you to become the person that you are today?
Sure. Well, I was born in New York. Okay. Most people think the city, but it's New York State.
Okay. What's the difference?
The state, it's huge. So why, when everyone says New York, you think like this one little small city?
Right.
Although I love New York City, but I was born in Poughkeepsie, New York. So that's like an hour and a half outside of New York.
Okay.
Most people from the city call it upstate. It's not, Buffalo. So I call it mid-state.
Okay.
But a great place to grow up. My parents both worked for IBM. It was like a huge IBM town back in the 80s. A lot of availability for Black folks to do well. So I was born there. My mom then got transferred to Maryland when I was in the third grade. So came down to actually Laurel, Maryland, Prince George's County, and went to school there. Yeah.
PG County.
Yeah.
Got two more. Go ahead.
Yeah, Pretty Girl County. So I fit right in, and so I started there third grade. Ended up going to Eleanor Roosevelt High School. Was in like the science and tech program.
And that's in Greenbelt.
Yep, that's in Greenbelt.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that was an amazing school for me, just because I could excel at academics. Mm-hmm. And then also play on some really, really good sports teams. So played basketball and soccer for Roosevelt. Also played soccer on like traveling club team. Played in Spain in like maybe my junior year. Won a couple of international awards with one of my traveling teams. So I got to see a lot with soccer, got to do a lot with soccer, and just had a great experience kind of growing up in Maryland.
What made you jump into soccer? I mean, there's so many different sports, out there, and, Prince George's County has been labeled basketball county. I'm not sure if you saw that documentary by Kevin Durant, but, and then growing up, because I'm a PG County native and I grew up right down the street in Hyattsville. So
okay.
I definitely know, about Roosevelt and so forth. But what kind of made you jump into soccer, though, of all sports?
Yeah, it was different because I grew up playing basketball, playing baseball, softball. Mm-hmm. And when I got to Maryland, actually it was all about the Boys and Girls Club. Okay. So that was like the first time I had ever been introduced, and you could do everything. So whatever the sport was that people could get signed up for. I mean, I was the only child, raised by a single mom and a single dad, kind of, because I stayed with my dad during the summers. And it was just like, what's next? And so when we got down here, it was like kind of the middle of the school year. They were signing up for soccer. They didn't have a girls team. They just had boys teams. Mm-hmm. And my mom was like, like she could do it. And I just took to it like immediately.
You had to be bad because you was the only, it was an all boys team and you showing up there.
Yeah.
You had to be a bad somebody to sit there and play and have to deal with that.
Yeah, it fit me. It suited me so well. A lot of the things that, like defensive positions and things like that you learn in basketball, translate. Head fakes, body fakes.
Wow.
It's all kind of the same. So, and plus I didn't have to be 6 feet tall. That helped me out.
Well, that helps, doesn't it?
I played goalie, so with my arms up and jumping, you weren't getting the ball past me. So slightly different than basketball, but I love basketball. To my core, I wish, my dad's 6'2", my mom's 5'10". I don't know how that gave me 5'6", but
But you know the funny thing is, I'm the opposite. My dad's 5'7", my mom's 5'8", I'm 6'4".
Yeah, you got me.
And I can't play basketball. I try.
Really?
I'm just not good. I can play 2K. That's about it.
There you go. No, but I was a decent basketball player, but just excelled at soccer and loved it. I mean, people talk about soccer, but there's no timeouts.
Right.
I mean, it is the best sport in the world. 90 minutes hard, no timeout, one halftime. I mean, if you get to like elite levels, there's like barely a water break. It got to be 120 degrees. And they're like, okay, like, well, give you a little, 2-minute water break, but not a bunch of timeouts. If you get subbed out, you're done. I mean, it's
really,
yeah.
Wow. Didn't know that.
The sport. Right.
So you pretty much played the whole game.
You play the whole game. That's what you're built for.
That's a lot of going back. I mean, literally, have you tracked what the mileage is you probably did in one competitive game?
I mean, you could do 13 miles in a game. I mean, depending especially your midfield. I mean, you can be up and down, up and back. So yeah, I love it. I love soccer.
So how do you necessarily train for that? I mean, is it just that you do a lot of cardio? You're doing a lot of running? I mean, what is that training? Well, let's dial back. What was the training process like when you were in high school?
Yeah. When I was in high school, we did really well. But most of the time we win at least the county, like our county record, or went to states a couple times. Our coach was very serious about our fitness. We would do 2-a-days with the football players.
Wow.
So they were out there 2-a-days. We were out there 2-a-days. There were times I feel like we could run 6 miles before practice started, and then expected to go home and maybe do another 2 or 3 miles. So just a lot of running on your own like that. That's the only way to build up cardio for that type of sport.
Absolutely.
And then a lot of ball work, a lot of just and it's a mental sport too, right? You can't wait to see where someone's going to go to pass the ball. You got to kind of know. So you got to learn your teammates, positioning. You got to kind of have an understanding of what the defense may or may not do. And then there's a lot of change in speed, which is why I was really good. I might not be the fastest person out there, but I was probably the fastest at changing my speed without you realizing that I'm about to take off. And so I played goalie and I also played forward. And so I used both positions to inform the way I played them. So the way I played forward helped me become a better goalie, and the way I played goalie helped me become a better forward. And so I just, I could score whenever you wanted me to. And I had lots and lots of shutouts. That was always my goal.
Okay. Well, now you're coming towards your end of your junior year, and you're thinking about colleges, and you're living here in Maryland, PG County, and there was different offers or different opportunities for you to probably leave state or venture other places, or even going to College Park, which was right down the street. What made you choose Howard University?
Yeah, so I'd always just kind of focused on academics, and I wanted to be a lawyer from the time I was watching Matlock with my grandmother. Wow. I don't know, at 5. And so that was my main focus. Where could I go that could get into a good law school? And really hadn't considered playing sports in college. And then I get a call from the head coach from Howard, and Michelle Street, and she was saying that they had seen me play. The assistant coach had been scouting me, and wanted to know if I was interested, wanted me to come down to the school for a visit, and I was, just really, really surprised. I hadn't considered an HBCU at that point. I honestly didn't know that Howard had a women's soccer team. And so I was just really, really excited to go and kind of visit. And then when I met the team, saw 20 African-American women, playing soccer and all on the same team, I was,
You so
I don't even know the words. Yeah. I mean, it was a different feeling. I couldn't believe it. I was always just one of one, maybe one of two. I had one soccer team where we had three Black girls, but two of them were twin sisters. You
wow.
know, I mean, it was just like it was that three
Wow.
was unheard of.
Yes.
And so it was just I like as soon as I saw that and saw them and saw the campus and the yard, I was like, there's no way I'm going anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So basically, you weren't even thinking when you were looking at colleges, you weren't even thinking about playing any type of sports. But sports was the thing that kind of pulled you into Howard University, and you still got to fulfill what it you wanted to accomplish at the end of the day anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, like a perfect storm for me that just made it all happen.
Right.
I like I said, I didn't know that she had come to some of the games at when I was in high school. My high school soccer coach was, it was different. I was the only Black girl. I was probably the only one that she didn't help with recruiting videos and like talking to coaches. It was definitely different. I know that some of the other girls got a lot of assistance and videos from their games and highlight reels put together. But it was not something that she assisted me with. And so it just was not on my radar. And, I played basketball. I probably could have went to an okay college if I wanted to play basketball, but I was so, focused on my academics and, because I wanted to get in a good law school, it wouldn't have been worth it for me to try to go to like a D3 or D2 school just for basketball. And then back then there wasn't a WNBA,
Right.
wasn't really any good sports, right? So it wasn't like I had something to look forward to if I tried to go and excel in college. Even with the Olympics, it's always been hard for female athletes, either going pro or those like elite level, like Olympic, making the Olympic team is like a 1 in a million. So I, just early on was just like focused on my academics as far as like picking a college. So, but Howard, I definitely got the best of both worlds because once I saw the academics and I saw kind of, the prestige of the school in general, it was almost like a Hillman, like a myth to me.
Yeah. Now you were living in Greenbelt. Did you ever venture to Howard? I mean, because it's pretty close proximity, but were you ever able to ever go to Howard or attend any events or anything along that lines prior to actually attending the university?
I hadn't. I definitely had been to DC, but never had gone to like Howard's campus, hadn't been to, any of the events there, any of the sporting events. In high school, we kind of followed the University of Maryland basketball team, especially the women's basketball team. They were really good at that time. And so if we were going to, go to a game, usually it was at University of Maryland. I can't even say even, going to Baltimore just for like culture and maybe even going out. I hadn't been exposed to a lot of HBCUs in this area. My grandfather was actually a coach at Norfolk State. So I would, when I visited him, my grandmother in Virginia, sometimes we'd go to games. Usually it was the men's basketball games or football games. And so that was kind of my only really real exposure to HBCUs, and just hadn't considered it for myself.
What was it like, now that you're at Howard University, you stepped on those hollow grounds and you're walking around, explain what life was like when you first stepped on campus. You coming just from down the street, but now you're here and you have the autonomy to be a pseudo adult at this time. Explain what that environment was like, because we're a couple of years away. Let's just say that.
It was really amazing to me. One, I was very nervous. I mean, I'm 44 now, and I feel like I still don't look my age. So if you imagine back then, like I have a November birthday, so I'm one of those kids that went to school at 4. So I was already, I'm like 17 going to college. I felt like I was younger than everyone else. I watched Different World growing up, and I felt like they all looked like grown-ups, and I didn't.
Well, they were.
I was, right. I mean, I'm like super nervous, but when I got on campus, that was one of the great things about playing soccer. We got to go on campus like 2 weeks early.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew where my dorm was. I was able to figure out where all the buildings were. I knew where I knew the cafeteria staff by name now. I'm in and out of the gym. And then I have like a group of friends already because, there's 20 plus people on the soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
And so that made the transition for me amazing because I could just step right in and not, feel alone, mm-hmm. not feel lost. Have this support system. And then on top of that, I was in the School of Business. And so one of the first choices I had to make was either stay with the freshman soccer players or stay with the freshman business team members. And so when, I got offered a full scholarship for soccer, but then when I actually applied, Howard gave me a full academic scholarship. Wow. And so looking at it, I was like, I've heard horror stories that people got hurt and then lose their scholarship. And it's not the coach, right? It's just that they need the scholarship now for someone who can play. That's and so, And then also what drew me to the business and the academic scholarship was that you needed a higher GPA. And I was like, I could do a 2.5. I mean, I probably would never have to go to class. But my academic scholarship, I had to get a 3.25 my freshman year and then a 3.5 the rest of my years.
Wow.
And it was for 4 years. There was no red shirt a year. I knew I would have to buckle down and get it done or else I'm coming out of pocket. And so I do well with like restrictions and pressure, and I was like, I need the academic scholarship. It's gonna test me. It's gonna make sure that I get done in 4 years. Mm-hmm. It's gonna make sure that I keep my grades up so I can get into a good law school. And so I chose my academic scholarship. And then when I had to choose who I should stay with, I was like, I'm gonna see my teammates all the time, but my business team members, like these are the people I'm in class with. Mm-hmm. I know I'm gonna miss class because we're traveling. I need folks that I can be like, hey, what were the notes? When's the test? What was this? Can you turn this in for me? I have a, early practice. And so I think that was one of the best decisions I ever made as like my first decision as an adult was like.
Are you still connected with anyone that was in your business, your business core group?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of folks went like back home, but just in this past homecoming, I saw at least 5 or 6 folks who were in my like first year business team. I forget the name of that course, but we all have to wear our little business suits. I think, I don't know if Howard still does it, but that was, I think, one of the best classes that I had. And then having us in those little smaller teams really made you like learn how to work together as a group, learn how to, kind of navigate school together. And most of us stayed together for 4 years, like taking classes, piggybacking off each other for like, did you take this class? Do you have this book? Do you have these notes? Like really working well together in order to make sure we all graduated. And a large portion, I think, of my business team graduated on time. And, you obviously can't say that for a lot of folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the thing is, you came in, you were initially coming to play soccer at Howard University, but you did something else too, right? You ended up doing not just getting a business scholarship, not only getting a scholarship to play soccer, but you ended up playing lacrosse too. You were a dual sport athlete. Explain that to me.
I wish I could explain it. I think I felt like I had a lot of free time in the spring.
Okay.
And my grades hadn't suffered, but I was like, I want to stay in shape. I played a lot of basketball. We would play sometimes against the women's basketball team, just like pickup games. And when I found out that the lacrosse team was like looking for walk-ons, you didn't have to have played before. I was like, it's a sport. Like I will try it. They got it for a reason.
So you never even played lacrosse?
Never.
You stepped on, just learned it on the fly.
Absolutely.
I told you bad. I told you bad somebody.
I mean, and the coach, I'm really bad with the names, but our coach, I want to say her name was Lori. She was really, really great, especially with me, very patient. And, one of the things she told me, she was like, listen, you have a lot of athletic ability. I can tell you play basketball, a lot of the same moves you can use here. Until you can catch and throw, just run down and score. And so once she said that, I'm like, oh, like I can do that.
Okay.
I played a lot of defense. And again, I was like, if I mirror your stick, like you can't score on me. And so, I was able to pick it up really pretty quickly. Another amazing sport. I mean, the one thing I loved about lacrosse too is that there's no out of bounds. So there's like a physical boundary, but they play as if the field goes on forever. So if the ball goes out of the physical boundary, it's whoever is closest to it gets the ball back. So not like in basketball where if like it last hit your team, the other team gets it.
Right,
no, if my team knocks it out, but I'm faster than the person on the other team and I can run towards it quicker, I get the ball back for my team. And so there's some ways that people with just athletic ability can excel even before they pick up like the nuance of cradling or passing. But after you can do that, I mean, I had like alley-oop scores. There's a lot you could do with lacrosse, and it's fun. Men's lacrosse, I don't know about it's a lot of hitting, but at least with women's lacrosse, it's a little more restrained, a little more finesse to it, and I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, I think you did something special in 1999 in the 2000 season. You were the first sophomore in Howard University history to be selected as Women's Player of the Year. Explain that season to me, and how did you feel after this proud accomplishment?
Yeah, I mean, the women's soccer team, we had a great season. We were in the Big South Conference. I was selected as one of the all-conference players for the tournament. I had a couple records in the NCAA for saves when I was playing in goal, and then picked up lacrosse. And I was very surprised by it. Honestly, I didn't even know until someone showed me the newspaper, the Hilltop, and they had a big picture of me like in the middle, and I was like floored. I remembered the award ceremony from the year before, but for most of the women's teams, it was like, folks who are all academic team. And, that was a lot of what like the soccer players got. And so I really couldn't believe it because I didn't know that anyone had noticed like all my hard work as far as playing both sports and then my academics. So I was so deeply honored and still to this day.
So you found out with everyone else?
I definitely did. It was actually after because people were congratulating me and I didn't know what they were talking about. And they're
like, this is you, right? This is your picture,
right? Yeah. So that was wonderful. I think I still have the newspaper somewhere. Wow. At least my mom does. But yeah, that was an amazing honor.
Yeah. I mean, that was a tremendous honor. Considering that season, I mean, it seems like you really work well under pressure, and it almost seems like you thrive on it. What were some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome with your teammates, and to be able to excel and have this magnificent season, or just in general, just even playing in these sports, in lacrosse and soccer as well, because particularly that time, we didn't see really the proliferation of women's sports. It was still just, it was really male domination pretty much in the sports, sports land. What was that like for you, to have to, prove people wrong, so to speak?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, and one of the things that we heard a lot, especially from our soccer coach, was kind of like, why are you so passive? And what I realized quickly was that most of us, we played soccer. We were the only Black person or one of maybe one or two on, an all white soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we were, kind of shoulder to shoulder with someone, a lot of times we got the call, right? We fouled.
Mm-hmm.
We always seem more aggressive, right? And so when you put a whole team together of folks who have been like trained to be less aggressive because you get the calls easier, we had to figure out a way to work around that. And then again, most of the teams that we're playing are all white teams. The MEAC didn't have a soccer division or a lacrosse division.
Wow.
And so we had a lot of issues with refs, a lot of issues just with other fans. We worked through a lot of adversity as an all Black team, even down to just getting places, getting through the airports, even just, people asking us like, oh, are y'all a basketball team? And we'd be like, no, a soccer team. And it's almost like they didn't hear us. They'd be like, oh, a volleyball team? It's like, no, a soccer team, and it's like, oh, you must play softball. And it's like, no, we play soccer, right? Like, so there was like those like kind of like a racial tension in a lot of our games that hopefully they're not still going through today.
Right. And just to put this in context, this is not in the 60s, the 70s, or the 80s. We're speaking of late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. So
we're not talking about a long time ago. This is roughly about 20 years ago.
Right.
And it was really so the nuance of what we're seeing now is really, sometimes I think we lose sight of, we're starting to see how different sports are growing, but to understand, a lot of this is still pretty new, that we get to experience.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So kind of figuring that out amongst ourselves, amongst, like the teammates and, facing some teams in Virginia and some areas down south, facing some refs who, this is the first team I've ever been on where I think half the team got a red card in one game, including our coach. And, even my dad, who's pretty laid back, was just like, I don't know if I can come to another game.
He was ready.
Yeah. I mean, and so, working through those things. And then the one funny thing about Howard, a lot of schools, they say like, oh, like the athletes, you get a pass on everything. Howard was not like that. And I definitely appreciate it. Although sometimes I would say to a professor, like, looking at the syllabus, our midterm is such and such date, I'll be out of town for this game. And can I take it early, or, what options do I have? And, some professors would be like, well, the midterm is that day.
Wow.
And I'd be like, oh, like thinking they misunderstood me. Like, no, I play soccer for Howard, like for this school,
for this university,
right here. Like, I can bring something in for you. And so it actually made me kind of a better communicator. And I realized like you couldn't just go in and be like, oh, I missed the test because you had to go in early. Like, listen, can I please take the test early? So that means I had to be more prepared than most folks, because it wasn't just oh, look at the soccer player, high five, give you a pass. So I had to be on it. One of my hardest classes my sophomore year was my business law class. It was taught by Janet Ashcroft, who was the Attorney General's wife, sitting like Attorney General wife, like, who could have taught at anywhere, decided to teach at Howard and teach business law. And I took it as a sophomore when most people in the classes were juniors and seniors. So I didn't play around, especially with my academics. And so I think it really helped me excel at everything. And that's all I can kind of count it to.
I would say this. I sucked at business law. I couldn't understand anything. That's why I'm in marketing. I really tried that course, and probably statistics. My ex-wife helped me get through statistics. She did everything for me. But those two classes, I can tell you, I was horrible at. Now, if you give me a marketing and business, I can do it like that. But those two classes, yeah, that's why we have people like you.
I definitely can appreciate that. That is a sentiment I heard from a lot of folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about some of the things you've done, completed within your sports journey at Howard University, and many of the great accomplishments that you were able to do. But you actually had something right outside of that once you graduated, and you were playing football, professional football for the Washington, D.C. Divas. Explain that to me. What is, I'm not sure if everyone knows about professional women's football. Explain what that is and what was that process like to go through being selected and actually playing there as well.
Sure. One, I'll say I always loved football.
Mm-hmm.
When the soccer coach at my high school asked me if I would kick for the football team, the boys football team.
Wow.
And I declined. I just felt like I would be a target. And I was like, I can't get hurt, right? I have other things going on. But I elected to train the men's goalkeeper was actually the kicker for the football team. So I worked with him on a lot of his skills to better assist him. I could punt way farther than him. So the coach was like, please help. So it's kind of funny. One of my teammates on my soccer team, Stephanie Hill, she calls me and she's like, hey, there's a women's football team in DC. I want to try out. I don't want to go by myself. Can you please, go with me? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, what do you mean a football team? And so, she's like, yeah, it's a professional football team. And I'm like, wait, I get pads and a helmet? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm there. We're there. I had actually just took the bar in July. So I had some free time before you don't find out if you pass the bar until November. Mm-hmm. I was taking a break, taking some time off. So we go to the tryouts. We both make the team. I'm a running back / fullback, and trying to learn a football offense. A whole notebook of a huge binder for the playbook. I also played on special teams, which I love. So I was the gunner and just running down, tackling people.
You in the mix.
Yeah. It was.
You get to hit people now.
Yes. all that energy I had from being a kid. And so it was great. I mean, you saw, and the one thing I will say, obviously, men's football, you could be the worst player on the team, and I don't know, you probably make $5 million, $10 million a year. Women's football, professional football, there's sponsorships, but most times folks are not paid. Mm-hmm. You do a lot of traveling, take a lot of time away from your family, but you have to work. So it was a lot of folks were firefighters, police officers, teachers, a lot of different professionals. So It was just really interesting. But when we put, pads on, it was everything was out the window. We're here to win. So I played one season just because of the time commitment. Once I started working as an attorney, I just did not have the time for practice and travel. But one season we went undefeated. I was rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year for the National Women's Football Association. That was an amazing honor. I was the only player selected from my team for one of the individual awards. So it was amazing. It was honestly amazing. I had a 70-yard touchdown that looked like a ESPN highlight. Do
you have an old reel of your?
I do. I have the DVD. I will. I will never let that die. It was because I think the part I got hit very early on for the first time, and I realized I never want anyone else to hit me. And so I did whatever I could every time I got the ball to score, because that would be the only way you don't get tackled. And so,
but you play fullback too, though, right?
Yeah, I played fullback. Blocking people was okay. It was the tackling, like just tackling
It's
you.
that you had to be offensive and kind of just give your body up and let someone tackle, as opposed to a fullback that engages into the sport itself.
Right. Okay. So I had a couple good runs, some long runs for that reason. And one of my teammates, they called it get skinny because she didn't know which way I was gonna run, so she just did like a little, I don't know, a little stop post, and I just juked around there and was gone. So,
okay, that's new. I'm trying to understand where you was going with it, but okay.
She's supposed to be blocking for me, but I was gonna run her over, so she just got skinny and stood still.
Maybe nobody can see me.
Yes, that's exactly.
I'm just gonna stand here.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a new one.
Well, but hats off to the folks still playing. There's a lot of great players, a lot of great coaches that put so much time and energy into women's football. I wish it had the same backing that like the WNBA has from the NBA. Because I mean, the games are great. The games are really, really great. It's a great time, like for the kids, for the family. And then of course you have some amazing athletes that are out there. So I was just glad to be a part of it for that 1 year.
And with women's football, what time period do they generally play? Is it the same time as men's? Or
no, summer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, summer.
Yep. So it's like July to August time frame.
Okay. Well, we brought you on here because there was a cap to your athletic run at Howard University. You were selected as a 2024 Hall of Fame inductee. And we were able to celebrate that with a couple of other people back on November 1st. Explain what that means to you and explain what that ceremony was to you and how did you feel about it?
I don't know if I can explain it. My birthday is November 3rd. So, I mean, it was an amazing birthday weekend. So on the 1st, we had the banquet. I think there was about 40 tables there. I had 3 tables of folks. I had folks travel from New York, from Las Vegas. I mean, I kind of thought people would, message me like, hey, congratulations. But a ton of family was like, oh, we're coming. Yeah. I had one full table that was just like friends. I had soccer players there. I had lacrosse players from Howard there, folks from high school, folks that I had worked with, folks from law school. And so everybody came out on a Friday night, and we had a great time. The trophy is the most amazing trophy I've ever seen.
It's beautiful, wasn't it?
Oh man,
it was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, everyone says I should name it. I haven't come up with a name yet, but I will. But it was beautiful, and then I couldn't have asked for a better ceremony. Just everything about it. And then that Saturday, they had the Hall of Fame game. And so we were acknowledged at halftime. They had a reception for us under the tent right in the end zone. Beautiful. And that was a beautiful day. My family came out for that game. They had almost like a little happy hour beforehand in the gym. Got to see my name on the wall because they'd already put it up. And I was like, wow, since when, Howard? Y'all are showing up. I was thinking by next year when I come back, they'll have the names. And sure enough, that,
it was up and running.
Yeah, it was up. It was already up. So that was, that's
excellent.
Yeah, I could not. And like I said, my birthday was on Sunday. So I still had family in town. We went out. Nice. Cowboys let me down. But other than that, I mean, it was.
Sorry.
We
were going so well on this podcast.
Right. Interview over. But no, I mean, I just really want to thank the Bison Express. I mean, I don't know how many folks it takes to put together something like that, but they did an amazing job, and I could not thank them more for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, the Bison Express is a supplemental arm for Howard athletics. And we do a lot of great work, trying to support our student athletes, whether it was with meals or buying equipment and things along that line. What is the importance of Bison Express or any other athletic programs or program that is giving back to Howard University. What is the impact of that, and what is the importance to that of that for you?
I mean, it's immensely important. Going back to when I was a student athlete, when you have folks like rooting for you, cheering for you, and more than just in the stands, but just in your everyday life, helping you with meals, with books. If they're sponsoring transportation, sponsoring like equipment that you may need to succeed, you can't put like a number on that. You can't put really can't measure the impact that it has. So, I didn't know much about the Bison Express, but I definitely sing their praises. I will be a lifelong member. All the galas and the fundraisers, I'll be attending going forward. And I just definitely want to give back. And, athletes at Howard, again, it's a special group because for the most part, they're elite athletes. They probably could have gone to other schools. But there's something about Howard, something about being at the Mecca, something about supporting, that legacy that's so, so important. And so if the Bison Express or other organizations can kind of fill in where there may be gaps in funding or gaps in sponsorships, that's amazing. And it's just going to keep bringing more athletes, more elite athletes, and putting the spotlight on Howard where it really should be. Yeah,
absolutely. Just to kind of wind this down, what has the impact Howard has had on your life in some of the choices? And I know we talked about, how, Howard, it was almost like a calling for you. You were able to get everything that you wanted and even more. But, just explain the impact Howard has been to you and your life and your family and so forth.
I mean, I'd have to start. I went to a predominantly white elementary school, predominantly white high school, and obviously excelled as a person, got along with a lot of folks, but it was something about seeing, a group of African Americans from all around the country, all different walks of life, but all in the same place at the same time, just, doing well, excelling, whether it's at sports or academics or music or the arts. The fact that I didn't have to, hunt down a Black diaspora course. There's 30 of them being offered. Wow. The fact that I didn't have to, pick and choose my courses, hoping that I may get a Black professor here and there. It really was a different experience for me, and something that it was invaluable. It let me know that, I'm worthy. I don't have to apologize for who I am. I deserve the best. I can excel in life regardless of how I look, who I date, what background I'm from, where my parents are from. And so it's just a different mindset that you have when you've been in that type of environment, whether academically or athletically. And so I can't say enough about Howard. And then also just telling you how it is. I still remember my senior year graduation, they brought all the seniors together and were like, look, some of you all are not graduating. Tell your parents that now. Do not have them come up to graduation. They cannot talk to me and figure it out. You have to stand up and tell them what's going on and come to my office and we will figure something out. If you need another course or if you're not passing something. And so there was also that level of honesty. Some of it, you had to jump through a few hoops in at the A building. But, again, it just prepares you for life. And like I said, I would not change that for the world. And one other thing I'll say is that my freshman year, I was at Howard Homecoming for the first time that October 1998. Okay. And I'm sitting with my soccer teammates. I don't really know anyone else. And someone's like, hey, isn't your last name Pruitt? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I think they just called your name over the loudspeaker. And I'm like, I don't think they called my name right over the loudspeaker at Howard's homecoming. And so not 2 minutes later, I hear, Lauren Pruitt, would you please come down to the field? Your grandfather is waiting for you. And so that year we had played Norfolk State at homecoming. My grandfather, when he found out that, the bus was going to Howard and his granddaughter's at Howard, he got on the bus, came down with them. Sure enough, I walked down the field. He's sitting at the edge of one of the players' benches, and I sat and, talked with him, and we, stayed on the sidelines, watched the rest of the game. And like, I don't know if I went to like a Duke or a University of Maryland or anywhere else, probably
Absolutely.
that had happened,
Right.
So like I said, I could not trade the experiences at Howard, the people that I met, the friendships that I made, every adversity, I would take that over any easy path that I had doing anything else.
Wow. That was tremendous. There's a young woman or someone, seeking to maybe go into, lacrosse or soccer. What advice would you give them?
The best advice I can give for any sport and almost in life is to be consistent, right? If you're going to train for something, train for it, put in the work, put in the effort. It will pay out in the long run. There's no shortcuts, right? If you're going to run. If you're going to get in shape. And then, in order to kind of build confidence, you got to be able to trust yourself, trust your teammates. And a lot of that, sometimes it's not even from playing the sport. I tell my godson all the time, I'm like, watch the sport, watch professionals, see how they move, see how they talk to each other. And once you can start visualizing yourself in those roles, you can see yourself, hitting that 3-point shot with the buzzer. When it's actually happening, it'll be, next to nature, right? You'll just be able to do it. And so I can't, put enough on, going to games, watching the sports, whether TV, in person, watch college, watch professional, see what they're doing, see how they're talking, see how they're moving, and then put that into practice. And, you're never too young to start. You're never too old to start. I mean, I walked on in college and ended up, doing fairly well.
Literally walked on.
Yeah. I mean, if you have that mindset, that, be resilient, be self-demanding, and be there for your teammates. Cause that's the one thing, if they know that you're always going to be there, if you're going to be there to pick them up, they'll be there for you. And it really does go a long way.
Yeah. You have worked with a nonprofit. Can you tell us about the work that you're doing, the name of the nonprofit, and if there's a way to follow you, we definitely want to be able to do that as well.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, I went to law school at Georgetown after Howard, barred in the state of Maryland. I worked in corporate law. That's what I thought I wanted to do for about 10 years until I got an offer to do some contract work with a nonprofit in Baltimore. And, when I saw that I could really do some good, help some individuals, I'd been working with a lot of corporations and just not as satisfying as I kind of thought it would be. And so this nonprofit is called Free State Justice. I've been there for 5 years now. I went from like a contract attorney to now being the legal director. The first time this organization has ever had all Black leadership. And so the purpose of the org is to provide legal services for LGBTQ plus individuals in the state of Maryland. So it's Maryland wide. We do a lot of education and outreach, a lot of trainings, a lot of policy work. And the one thing about working for an org that has, a kind of a specific marginalized community in mind is that the more that I do for that community, the more I actually help everyone. There's no one way for me to secure more rights for one person that doesn't help other folks. So even though I'm focused on LGBTQ rights and inclusivity. It's helping folks who are thinking about women's rights. It's helping folks who are thinking about the rights of, immigrants or ethnic minorities. And so I've been able, through that work, meet the governor, meet the lieutenant governor, me a hug when she sees me. I've been able to do some really, really amazing things, talk with amazing people. I get to testify in Annapolis, about, bills that may be harmful to the community or to, our rights as human beings. And then also, testify on those that champion, rights of children and even like folks that are incarcerated and, just trying to make the world, a better place. And so a little bit at a time, but it's a great organization. And we, if folks are interested, it's www.freestate-justice.org. And like I said, it's a wonderful org. We do a lot of clinics, a lot of legal work for folks in the community that, folks just don't have access, just in general, not have access to legal representation. And we see such a major difference in the outcomes when folks have a lawyer. So that's why even if you're not a member of the community, if you have questions, you can reach out to us. I never turn anyone away. I find referrals for folks, try to find answers, help with pro se resources. So that's a big deal for me. So thank you for letting me talk a little bit about that. But it's really, really important and has been like just a kind of a major role in my life, being able to help folks and being able to use my law degree to give back as well.
And also, I'm seeing you have the IG handle too, so we can connect with you on there as well.
Absolutely. I'm not great at social media, but that is my IG. I will try to do a lot of postings for Free State, and also just personally, I love to travel. I got to go to the Super Bowl last year. Absolutely amazing. And
there we go again. Like you and I, we like, I think we have a good groove going on. Then you want to bring up the Super Bowl because I'm a 49ers fan. So,
oh man, listen, I have a towel for you from the Super Bowl. I will get it.
Look, maybe that'll make things better now.
Yeah. Got your name on it. It was the best game I've ever seen, though. I'm sorry your team didn't come out. I didn't know who was going to come out. I didn't have a favorite in it, so.
Yeah, well, I don't remember most of the night about it.
Okay, that's fair. Absolutely fair.
The pain was numb and went somewhere else after a while. So
yes,
we're good.
Yeah.
Well, Lauren, I want to thank you for joining the Bison Break Podcast. We definitely really appreciate you sharing your story. Walking us through your journey and the things that you were able to complete at Howard University, not just on the athletic standpoint, but also how impactful obtaining your degree was and the things that you're doing now. And it's one of the great things about doing this podcast. I get to meet so many wonderful people. I get to hear their stories, and then also to see how that maturation from starting at 17, 18 years old, and then you come and now as a full-scale adult, you see how it just kind of that timeline is trickled on, and we're seeing all these different levels of success. So thank you for all that you do. We wish you so much luck in all the things you continue to do and what you're doing for our communities as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This is an amazing show, so I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank you guys for tuning to another exciting episode of the Bison Break Podcast, and want to thank Lauren Pruitt for jumping on the podcast today and telling her story about all the wonderful things she's done at Howard University and the things she's doing now currently in her professional career. And please stay tuned. Please stay connected. Follow Bison Express at Bison Express on your favorite social media outlets. Also, you can venture and meet us at bisonexpress.org. I'm your host, Rob Black Jr., and I see you on the other side of your goals.